Hello, everyone. Welcome to 28 Days of Health. My name is Dr. D, and I am going to walk you through some important topics, not just tonight, but throughout the month. So if you are new to 28 Days of Health, welcome. I want you to go back on the last 8 days of 28 Days of Health right here on Market America Healthy Living. Perhaps you found us on another page where someone shared some of these health topics. Just know that that person wants to see you move towards your very best self. We're going to spend the rest of this month on topics just like tonight. The big reveal tonight's topic is not setting a routine or inspiring others to better health. We're going to turn inward and we're going to talk about sexual health and well being. I know it's an awkward topic for many, and yet it is such a critically important topic for your health, for your well being, for your longevity. Connection to ourselves, our family, our community comes in many different forms, and we need to feel socially connected. We also need to feel intimately connected. Now, many people will do this in ways where they find and expand, and that's really the focus of tonight, is to understand expanding that definition of intimacy. Because if you're like a lot of the patients and individuals that I have counseled, then you might wrongly, unfortunately, believe that sexual health is limited to a sexual act, to touch, stimulation, and climax, when in fact the breadth of sexual well-being goes far beyond that. Now, it is true that young in a relationship, that very often we will define ourselves through that sexual attraction, through that animalistic attraction, and we do end up in the very beginning of relationships often having more sex more frequently than we do in those same intimate relationships over time. And unfortunately, we send ourselves a message and sometimes send our partners a message that means that something has declined in the quality of our relationship. We often struggle against this in long-term relationships. Many couples will struggle with sexual health and well-being and want to know where the spark went and what does that mean. And they really do. They ask that question, what does it mean? And they'll quickly get to the point and say, I still love my, right? I still love them, right? But they can't figure out why there may be less arousal, less desire. And I think it's because we've limited to this box of touch, stimulation, and climax, when in fact we underappreciate the way that person makes us feel, right? We often put words or a lot of emphasis on touch and words, um, whether those are compliments, whether those are affirmations of affection, loving care for another person. And again, underappreciate action, underappreciate unspoken words that help us feel valued. These are unconsciously or otherwise contributing factors to your sexual health, your sexual well being, and your love and desire and arousal for another person. So, first, we need to understand that sexual frequency is not a predictor of sexual satisfaction. Many individuals, both male and female, will let their partner know that reaching climax is not the absolute important part of that relationship, right? That their satisfaction is not goal oriented, that their satisfaction is in fact more about the quality of that relationship, the trust in that relationship, sometimes the adventureness or the adventure the setting, right? There are many different ways to apply extra in a relationship where you feel not just valued, but you feel desired. And so it's worth discussing these types of things with your partner, because this is one of the ways that we bond, not just through physical touch, but also through sharing vulnerabilities, sharing positive affirmations, being in a trusting environment where we're able to tell our partner how we are feeling. You know, I'm not a big fan of this concept of fake it until you make it. And I'm not trying to make a joke by talking about fake it and sexual health and sexual well being. I really want to bring it to something far more important and impactful in long term relationships, which is being courageous, being vulnerable. When we think about this concept of fake it until you make it, right? We go out there and we behave as if. And while I think that there's power in mindset and power in behaving as if, there is one particular time where being courageous is just, where faking it till you make it is just that important. And it's being courageous. I'm not sure that that courage exists without being like, I don't know if I can do this, right? And that is where I think a lot of people find the greatest satisfaction, in that vulnerability, in knowing that they are vulnerable and they're courageous enough to trust in another person, to just be with another person. And so those are some of the things that I want you to explore when you evaluate your sexual health, your sexual well-being, right? Because when we can trust and be vulnerable with another person, studies show that you will have higher levels of sexual satisfaction when you're able to be with your partner, even if you are not even if it is not a sexual encounter. When you can be with your partner, we find that sexual, not limited to sexual frequency, but that these individuals have much higher levels of sexual satisfaction. I think it's important to know that there are things that are happening in your life that limit sexual satisfaction. And it's not that you don't want to be socially connected, intimately connected, or care for another individual. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We often find ourselves as adults caring for other individuals, whether it's kids or parents. And this is one of those things that will limit sexual health and sexual well-being. So we do find that many new parents, parents of teenagers, parents that are taking care of, or couples that are taking care of family members, extended family members, or parents, find that they grade their sexual health at a lower level. And it's not because they're missing out on sexual frequency. In fact, what many of these men and women will share in regards to their partner is that it's actually a similar frequency to what it was before, but satisfaction is less, often because sleep is less, or stress is higher. That satisfaction is less because they may have a sexual act, they may touch and reach climax, but they're not spending more time with each other, right? So, one of the things that I want us to appreciate about sexual health and well being is that individuals that rate their sexual health as higher, their sexual satisfaction are higher, are not, in fact, the couples that have frequent sex, that have fun sex, that have wild sex, that have sex that is this very romanticized notion of sex, but in fact, those that spend time with each other after intercourse. Individuals that cuddle after intercourse tend to have much higher rates of sexual health and sexual well-being, or sexual satisfaction. Individuals that have flirtatious moments with their partner, inside jokes, a side glance, a knowing glance. You maybe you yourself have a tell that you use with your partner that lets them know, but no one else knows how you are feeling. Everything from it's time to leave the party, Joe, right? To other knowing looks, glances, or touches that let them know how you're feeling, right? This is the one that we always joke about. But what if this didn't mean I'm bored and I don't like your friends, right? What if it meant something else? And those are things that individual couples will do that really improve their sexual satisfaction. That being said, we do have things that steal our sexual desire, our arousal. I often say, are there things that are getting in the way of your life that are stopping you from getting your head in the game? This mentally getting yourself there when it comes to sexual arousal. And that's why one of the things that I wanted to make sure we talked about tonight was stress. Stress is one of the major stealers of your sexual health and well being. If we were to think about sexual arousal as pedals in a car. There's an accelerator and there's a brake, right? And we find that stress is one of the number one things that slams on the brakes in sexual health. And it does it for two different reasons. One, because sexual health and well-being is in fact that connectedness to a partner. So it's not simply the mechanical aspects of sexual intercourse. And stress, when we're thinking about other things, when we are preoccupied with other things, we're less apt to be able to find ourselves in the right place to enjoy our partner, to feel comfort, stimulation, to feel that touch in the way it is intended. And we're also less likely to give touch in the way it's intended, right? I think when you speak to stressed couples, one of the things that often comes out is that they feel like they're supposed to do this. So they're going to go through this act because it's Wednesday and that's what we do on Wednesdays, right? And when sex starts to become an obligation because you think that you're supposed to do it, and it's it's one of these things that people appreciate that they are a giver, but that doesn't mean that you need to feel obligated, but rather get back into that trusting situation with your partner where you can let them know how you feel, and that time is something that creates and recreates that intimacy. So there's that aspect that stress prevents us from being able to get our head in the game, really be able to mentally be there and be with our partner and feel vulnerable and allow them to feel vulnerable or to feel open to us and show us everything that they are. There's actually a biochemical process that's also going on, not just simply this emotional one. And that biochemical process is something where stress hormones literally steal your sex hormones. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and while it is appropriate in stressful situations, when your stressful situations are going on for too long, your body will do something that is often referred to in the literature as a pregnenolone steal. Pregnenolone is a derivative of cholesterol, as are all hormones. So that's also worth talking about. If you're on medication that limit your cholesterol, that slow down cholesterol or prevent its production, or perhaps there's steps that you take to limit cholesterol in an appreciable way, then one of the things that may also be on the decline is your sexual health, because all hormones are derivative of cholesterol. But going back to this idea of a steal, pregnenolone is derivative of cholesterol, as are all hormones, and I was saying. But what happens is that under a stressful situation, instead of allowing the body to create sexual hormones, sexual reproductive hormones, the body will do something different and will decide that you're going to make stress hormones out of that. Progesterone and testosterone are what I often refer to as kissing cousins to cortisol. They look very similar. Close enough for your body to say, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to repurpose that. I'm going to use it for something else, right? We have to appreciate that when we go back into um, um, our ancient DNA. Now I'm going back more than just centuries. I'm thinking about us as more of just new beings. That I'm really just dancing around this idea of like saying that we have caveman DNA, and um, one of the things to appreciate there is um, that we're so complex in our world today, and that there's a lot of things that just disrupt the natural and primal part of who we are. And that's something that happens with our sex hormones, is that we're just not built for this type of stress, right? Our caveman DNA is used to surges of cortisol for stressful situations like a wildebeest, but then it plans to, but you're either eaten, right, or you got away. And so that goes down. But we live in a very stressful, chronically stressful world, a very complex world, to a world that our DNA is built for. And as a result of that, our body has a couple of um, plan Bs or fail switches. And when we think about normal stressful situations according to our DNA, we weren't going to stop running from the wildebeest to have sex. And so it's natural chemically for your body to say, let's go ahead and use all these substrate that we have to do something different. So if you are chronically stressed, you can expect that you're going to have low sexual arousal. If you are chronically stressed, you can appreciate that you'll have low sexual endurance. Even if you have desire, if many couples say they love their partner, right? But they'll have low desire, low endurance, a sense of lack of vitality, sexual health or vitality, simply because all of those sex hormones were eaten up in an effort to maintain that level of stress that you're keeping yourself at. So, one of the things that you can do, besides having this information, is to use adaptogenic botanicals. Now, there's such a thing as a nutritional adaptogen, and then there are what are called botanical adaptogens. Let's just focus on the word adaptogen for a minute. Adapt. So, what adaptogens allow you to do is to put the foot on the accelerator when you need to, but then put the foot on the brake when you need to. And I'm sorry that I mixed my car metaphors up, because I also said that stress puts on the brake. But what adaptogens allow you to do is have the energy that you need when you need it, and have the ability and the building blocks to do something very similar to what we're talking about with this stress hormone. It can a hormone, a substrate, can become either a stress hormone, or it can become a sex hormone. Well, that's very much how adaptogens are going to work. I guess if we're going to talk about sex, I should do this. That's how adaptogens are going to work, right? These adaptogens are going to sit here as a substrate, and they're going to become what you need them to be. If you need their help for stress response, they'll do that here. Whether it's to mount, I need to, fight response, or I need to calm down. So they, like sex hormones or like cholesterol and the hormones that are derived from cholesterol, will allow you to do certain things. That's what nutritional and botanical adaptogens do. They sit here and they wait for the stimulation. They wait for, what do I need to do? Where does she need me to fill in the gaps, right? Where's that weakest link? And does she need to be strong, or does she need to relax? Does she need to be alert, or does she is it fine to allow her to have sexual health, sexual desire or arousal? Those are what adaptogens do. So, what are your nutritional adaptogens? B vitamins are nutritional adaptogens. Magnesium is a nutritional adaptogen. Omega-3 fatty acids, these are nutritional adaptogens. And they're going to help you in two areas of sexual health. where if you're not getting enough sleep, like we talked about with the kids or extended family in the house, or you're taking care of parents, maybe you have a shift work, you are working more than one shift, those sorts of things, then you're not maximizing your sleep. And that means that you will not, cannot, did not, will not maximize your sexual health. Um, the quality of your sexual health will go down. The quality of, or the perception of satisfaction will go down. And then those same adaptogens can help us with the stress activity or the stress response that's not allowing our body to make sex hormones. So your first line of defense is nutritional adaptogens, both through supplementation and through dietary intake. Magnesium, a complex of B vitamins, and omega-3 fatty acids from fish. Now, where do we go from there? Well, there are stronger adaptogens, and these are what we refer to as botanical adaptogens. These are things like a plant called ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is rich in an ingredient that is actually quite beneficial when we think about brain health, when we think about thyroid health and well being, when we think about stress in our adrenal glands, and when we think about our gut and our gonads. In fact, there's a complex in the body called the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid gut, adrenal gut gonadal axis. And this axis is the interconnectedness of the way your hormones work, the way stress, the endocrine system, and the nervous system are connected. And so when we think about the way we respond to stress, one of the factors that many people will mention is that they have lower brain concentration. They feel overwhelmed very quickly. They start to feel brain fog, lack of concentration. They may say that their metabolism gets sluggish, that they are feeling worn out. Many people will report stress wears them out, right? They feel it in their gut. There's something, and they just can't eat. I'm just kind of stressed. I just don't tolerate that, right? Well, sexual health is, because this affects the gonads as well, is also impacted. So many of these botanical adaptogens are strong enough in their mechanism, ashwagandha being one of them, bacopan, erythra root. You might know it as Siberian ginseng. These are the types of botanicals, whether you're looking at an anti-stress formula, for example, Bliss is an anti-stress formula with these ingredients. You're looking for something else like an adrenal, cortisol, thyroid, and stress. That's a formulation that is, works with weight management, stress, and its weight, because we also want to appreciate that individuals that are concerned about the shape of their body, function of their body, also have lower sexual function. So stress adaptogens is what you're hearing, whether they're nutritional or botanical adaptogens, tend to be very helpful in allowing an individual to settle many areas of health: stress, weight, a healthy night's sleep. All of these impact your sexual function, not just your productivity and your mental well-being the next day, but sexual function, sexual satisfaction for both you and your partner. These are some things to pay attention to. I happen to be a big fan of using botanicals for hormonal health, for well-being, for sexual well-being, for individuals, not just when they're overweight, not just when they are of more mature years, but really appreciating that the quality of the way we spend our day will dictate very much the quality of the way we spend our nights. And individuals of all ages are impacted by the stress of their workday, the stress of their young families or their growing families or an aging family member. And this is why these botanicals and nutritional adaptogens are so effective. If one of the things that's going to motivate you to make a change, follow a program, get started on something new in our 28 days of health, perhaps sexual health and well-being, kind of turning things around in that area of your life, is exactly what you're looking to do. I think it's worth just reminding individuals that sexual well-being is not about frequency of sex. It's not about wild or adventurous sex. In fact, individuals that report that they are highly satisfied with their sex, have high rates of sexual satisfaction with their partners, are those that say they trust their partner, that they feel safe with their partner, that they feel that they can be vulnerable with their partner, and that they cuddle with their partner. These are the individuals that rate themselves the very highest. If you are looking to improve that and you believe that stress, weight, or lack of sleep are preventing you from being your very best sexual self, perhaps you'll look at not just some of the tips I've talked about here today, but also nutritional adaptogens like omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, in particular in a glycinate form. And I could even say in particular in a highly bioavailable isotonic form. Definitely a complex of B vitamins, and then making sure that you're paying attention to adaptogen botanicals found in products like Anti-Stress Bliss and Axe through our weight management line. Until I get to see you next time, go be healthy, go be brilliant.